Hey guys, let's talk about directories in Linux. To create a directory in Linux, you need to type in mkdir space directory name. So mkdir space directory name. So if I type in test, I'll create a directory named test. Now to get into this directory, you can type in cd space directory name. Cd is a short form for change directory. So cd, and as you can see, my prompt straight away changed from tilde, which is the home directory of my user, to test. Now once you're in the directory, to go back to the home directory of your user, you can type in cd space tilde, and this will take me to the home directory of my user. Or to go one level up, we can type in cd space dot dot, and that will take me one level up. But just to further explain this, let's create a directory structure under test. So cd space test, and then I can do mkdir test1. I can go cd space test1, right? So I've created a directory structure where I've got my home directory, and then test under the home directory, and then test1, and then test2. So to go one level up, which means if I had to go from test2 to test1, I can type in cd space dot dot, and that will take me to test1. If I have to go to the home directory of my user, which means if I need to go to this tilde, I can type in cd space tilde. Now if I have to go to the root, which is the point in file system where everything resides, which is that means it is the first thing in a file system, I can type in cd space slash, and I'll be at cd space slash. So if I type in pwd here, I can see that this is the first point in my file system. Now this leads us to the concept of absolute and relative paths. An absolute path is defined as specifying the location of a file or a directory from the root directory, so from here. In other words, we can say absolute path is a complete path that starts from the start of an actual file system, which means that an absolute path will always start with a slash. So let's say if you want to go to test2 and want to give the absolute path, I can type in cd space slash home slash labit slash test slash test1 slash test2, and this will take me to test2. So this is an absolute path. Now to understand the concept of a relative path, let's go back to the home directory of my user, cd tilde. Now a relative path is defined as path related to the present working directory. So I'm in my home directory, so pwd slash home slash labit. If I type in ls here, to get into, let's say, documents, I can either type in cd space slash home slash labit slash documents, right? Or because I'm already in slash home slash labit, I can just type in documents, and this becomes a relative path because it's relative to the directory I was already in. Now you'll be thinking, oh okay, that's easy, then why would we need an absolute path? We'll need an absolute path in cases where if you are in a certain directory but you want to run a program or open up a file which is located in another directory, and you don't want to change the current working directory you're in. So for example, I'm in cd documents. Now if I do an ls here, I don't have anything, but let's create a document. And I'll say this is file demonstrates fat fingers, the use of absolute and relative paths. So I've got a file named myfile.txt under documents. Now let's go to my home directory, test, test1, test2. So now I've switched my context from documents to test2. Now this here was a relative path because it didn't start from a slash, so it didn't start from root, so that's why it's a relative path. But then back to the absolute path use case. Now I'm in test2, I'm doing something, right? I'm talking to my Linux system using echo command, right? And I want to now, without switching my current directory from test2, I want to now go and read the contents of myfile.txt. I can use the absolute path, so I can go cat space slash home slash labit slash documents slash myfile.txt. So one important thing you can use is, so if you're in home slash labit, so you can use tab to autocomplete your command. So if you type in slash and then h, you can go into home, and next you can type in L and then hit tab, you can go into my username or whatever your username is, so you can hit the first letter of that and hit tab. And then to go to documents, I can type in capital D and hit tab, and this will wait a while and then give me some options. So I can see it's telling me there's not enough information for the system to autofill this because desktop, documents and downloads all starts with a D. So I have to provide some unique identifier for this. So I want to go to documents, so I'll type in DOC and hit tab, and that allows it to autocomplete it. And now my file is called myfile.txt, so and that's the only file, so I can type in M and hit tab and then autocomplete the file. I'll hit enter, and you can see that I'm in the same directory test2, but I can still read the contents of this, right? So but you can then say, oh, we can use the tilde, why do we need to do a home labit documents? But then you might be in some other directory, so you might be in, let's say, you might want to see a list of commands using ls bin, right? So you want to still stay in your test2 directory, but you want to list the contents of the bin directory, which is under root. So you can get a list of all these and you're still in test2. So I hope that's made the concept of absolute and relative paths clear. Now next thing is, if you want to delete a directory, what you can do is, first, if your directory is empty, so I can do an ls on test2 and I know this is empty, so I'll go one step up. So test1 ls, it's got test2 in it, and we know test2 is empty. To delete it, I can do rm -d, which means delete a directory, and test2. But before that, I'll let you see the help for the option I used. So rm removes or unlinks the file. -d is removes an empty directory. -v is verbose, it explains what's being done. -i, small I, is prompt before every removal, and -f is force, so don't tell me, just do it. So let's have a look at each of these. So to delete test2, which is an empty directory, I can do rm -d and then test2. Now if I go one level, if I create something else, so if I go touch file1.txt under test1 and make sure the file1's there, you can go cd ..ls. Now we know because file1.txt was under test1, that makes test1 a non-empty directory. So if I type in rm-d and then test1, see, it gives me a prompt that you can't do it because the directory is not empty. So to remove a non-empty directory, I can type in rm-f and then the directory name, and make it recursive. So -r is recursive, and this will allow me to forcefully delete a non-empty directory. Now recursive will also delete any directories that are inside a directory. So you've got to be very careful when you're using -r and -f options. Now let's go one level back and let's try and delete this time using -i option. So rm -i and do it on a directory and test. So it will now ask me before deleting this directory. So if you've got any important directories that you wanted to prompt before it deletes the directory, you can use -i option. Now this ends this lecture about directories in Linux. I will see you in the next lecture where I'll talk about directory structure. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching. Bye.